Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating book that puts forward a radical new way of looking at political power. It's called Assembly, and it tackles a huge question for our time. Why do so many powerful modern movements seem to fizzle out before they can create lasting change? So the book is by political thinkers Michael Hardt and Antonio Negri, and they're wrestling with this puzzle that we've all seen play out. You get these incredible social movements, think about the Arab Spring or Occupy Wall Street. They just explode with energy, but so often they fade away. The book asks a very simple but very important question: why? And it all starts with a question that seems almost too simple at first, but it's actually incredibly deep. In this age of massive, sprawling movements, where are the leaders? So let's start right there, because this lack of traditional leaders in today's biggest movements, that's not an accident. It's not a bug, it's a feature. And it creates this really powerful paradox that we need to unpack. I mean, we all know the script, right? A movement just bursts onto the scene. It's full of this amazing democratic energy, these incredible ideals. It totally captures the world's attention. But then it struggles. It struggles to keep that momentum, to turn all that energy into a real, durable, new alternative. But here's the thing, this leaderlessness is a conscious choice. For decades, activists have become really suspicious of old-school leadership. They've seen how charismatic figures can end up hoarding power, how rigid, top-down parties can just shut down debate, and how that whole vertical structure can become the very thing they're fighting against. And this is absolutely crucial. Sure, governments and police push back, that's a huge factor, but the deepest reason for this lack of leadership actually comes from inside. The movements themselves have basically developed these powerful immune systems to stop anyone from taking on that traditional top-down role. The whole point is to empower everyone to participate as equals. So what is this old model that everyone's so busy rejecting? Well, the authors give it this fantastic name, pulling straight from mythology: the centaur. You know the centaur, right? Half human, half beast. In this political metaphor, the human head is the leadership. They've got the intelligence, the long-term vision, the grand plan. And they control the beastly body, which of course represents the followers, the masses, whose job is basically to carry out the actions decided from above. And this chart just perfectly illustrates that split. In the old model, strategy, that's for the leaders. They're the ones looking at the big picture, thinking long-term. Tactics, on the other hand, well, that's for the followers. Their job is to focus on the here and now, the immediate actions on the ground. It's a crystal clear, top-down division of labor. Okay, but let's keep going. Because this centaur model isn't just about organizing a protest. It's rooted in a much deeper political idea that the authors really want us to challenge. And that idea is sovereignty. At its core, sovereignty is pretty simple. It's the right of one entity to rule over everybody else. It doesn't matter if it's a king, a political party, or even some abstract concept like the will of the people. It's always a relationship of domination. The sovereign decides, and everyone else follows. This is where our whole idea of representation starts to get really tricky. The philosopher Jacques Rancière has this brilliant line where he says, representative democracy sounds totally normal to us now, but it's actually a contradiction in terms, an oxymoron. So why would he say that? Well, because representation tries to do two completely opposite things at once. On one hand, it claims it's connecting the people to power, but on the other hand, it actually cuts them off from it. Think about it. It takes all the messy, diverse, complicated voices of the many, and it boils them all down into one single, unified voice, the representative, who then gets to make decisions for them. The end result? Power stays right where it was, concentrated in the hands of an elite. Okay, so if that old centaur model, the one based on sovereignty and representation, is broken, what's the alternative? This is where the book gets really exciting and makes its most radical proposal. They put out what they call a first call, and it's a challenge to do something really simple but also profound, to completely invert the entire traditional relationship, to flip it on its head. So check this out. This is the big inversion. What if the movements themselves, the people on the ground, are the ones who handle strategy? What if the collective intelligence of the group is responsible for the long-term vision, for setting the political direction? And what if leadership gets demoted to a purely tactical role, something temporary, occasional, and always serving the strategy set by the movement? Now, you might be thinking, okay, that sounds a little idealistic. But the authors argue that the capacity for this is already all around us. It's built into the ways we already cooperate every single day to make society function, in our jobs, in our communities, in our networks online. The ability to organize and plan isn't some rare gift held by a few great leaders. It's a widespread social skill we all have. And this brings us to a brand new, powerful metaphor to replace the old centaur, the swarm. Just think about a swarm of birds or insects. It moves together with this incredible coordination, this incredible purpose, but there's no single leader telling everyone what to do. It is an assembly of individuals acting together, a multitude that can be both incredibly democratic and incredibly strategic. That is the vision of a new kind of political power. And that leaves us with one last massive question to think about. If we actually accept this inversion, if the movements hold the strategy and leadership is just a temporary tactic, then what does it even mean to take power anymore? It suggests the real goal isn't just to change who's at the top, but to change the very nature of power itself.